before we buckle into election day, we're gonna go here because here is some news that got buried, but that is, I think, very important, worth noting. So I tweeted this. Now, by the way, when I went to retweet this, Twitter did one of those things where they're like, this article doesn't tell the full story. Have you gotten something like that ever, Graham?
I've gotten that. I've gotten, wait, you're retweeting without reading the article.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure they do that all the time. Except no, they don't. But they did it for this. Here's something Jordan Cheriton tweeted. Here's the way he put it. A night before the election, because this was tweeted out last night, when it will get buried, obviously it'll get buried, the DOJ releases previously unknown parts of the Mueller finding. Here's the big part here. They found no conclusive evidence that Julian Assange worked with Russia on the DNC, in quotation, hacks, for which there's still no evidence for.
Yeah.
And, I combed through the article. You can comb through the document. It's all right there. They decided not to pursue anything against Julian Assange because there was no evidence whatsoever that he allegedly hacked anything, that he took part in any hacking. And keep in mind, that's the charge they're trying to get him on, because that's the actual crime. It's not a crime to publish materials. It's not a crime when he published the same stuff that The Guardian ended up publishing and the New York Times ended up publishing. There's no crime there. The crime they're trying to get him on is violations of the Espionage Act, which, by the way, is an act that goes back to the First World War, to try to stop foreign spies and stuff like that. It has no bearings on our current society. And they're trying to get him on saying, oh, he helped Chelsea Manning hack stuff. No evidence whatsoever that he did anything like this. If we lived in a civilized society, first of all, he'd already be free. But right. Even if we lived in a semi-civilized society, when this news dropped, when these documents dropped, he would be pardoned immediately. Sent home. And let's be honest, with what he went through the past 7 years, he'd be given a settlement so that he never has to even consider having to work for another day in his freaking life. That's how big this revelation is. They have nothing. There is no inkling of evidence that he is remotely guilty of the charges, which of course are completely bogus charges, being brought against him. Nothing.
And it's not like a coincidence or like a mistake that it got dropped the night before this election, where all anyone's going to be talking about the next probably 3 days to a week, if not longer, is this election. So there's no, and it's so amazing to me. I was watching CBS, their CBSN, their online, like nonstop 24/7, streaming news thing. And they were talking.
Were you tied to a chair with your eyeballs propped open like in Clockwork Orange? Who did this to you?
Every morning I like to go, I wonder what the liars are saying today. And they're talking about, the election and, whatever, Biden needs to win these states to win and Trump needs wins these states, whatever. They're talking about that stuff. And they're like, then they start talking about Russia and they're like, well, there's not as many indications that Russia's trying to interfere with this election, although it was very clear and very obvious in 2016, Russia interfered. And I'm just like, man, I'm 2 minutes in and they're bold-faced lying. Mm-hmm. Like no mention of the FBI report saying that the Clinton campaign hired CrowdStrike. None of the work that Aaron Matei has done is mentioned at all about, no, Russia really didn't. They just say it, foregone conclusion. 4 years ago, Putin really tried to, just like, and I'm like, wow, they just lead with that lie and they do that thing. They just say it as though it's fact. And this is why, all the neoliberals they believe it. Because they watch these CBS and CNN and MSNBC. And they think, well, they're at least easier to trust. They're like, I don't like the media that well, but I can trust them better than at least Fox News can, right? Because Fox News is saying that Joe Biden is a socialist or whatever, which
I wish.
Oh, I wish too.
Man,
me too.
I wish. I mean, all those things that I was like, I wish that were true. I wish that. I mean, Joe Biden wants a Green New Deal. I wish that were true.
I know. It's amazing. So it's like, I'm already watching and it's already like they're planting the seeds of you know, interference, hacking, whatever. They just say that, and it's a fact, and nobody looks into it. And when anybody digs deeper that uncovers something, it's never going to get any mainstream play at all. If it does, it'll be mentioned by like one panelist, and then someone else will come back and go, wow, that's not blah, blah, blah. You know, I used to work for the CIA and I still do. And that's, you know, or whatever they're going to come back and say. And it's just amazing. Like, this should be bomb. This should be actual bombshell news, and it's not.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Swept under the rug.
That's the thing. Well, and first of all, getting back to what you said, where they'll just say, well, in 2016, they interfered and there was this big interference thing. You know, propaganda 101, repeat a lie often enough. And people will, so it's like when you have 4 years and counting,
yeah,
of course you can just say it nonchalantly and people will be like, oh, yeah, of course. Just like with Julian Assange. Oh, well, of course he hacked something. Did he? Well, here you have from the Department of Justice. It's not like this. I mean, it's from the Wolf's Lair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like this is even, I mean, you of course have all these, you know, foundations for press freedom that are actual foundations for press freedom, not just some of the fronts like we have here in the United States where people like Adam Schiff are involved with it, but actual, you know, press freedom organizations saying, hey, this is completely bogus. The fact that it has even gotten to this point is criminal beyond comprehension. This is the assault on freedom of the press of our generation. You don't just have that. Now you have, even from the Wolf's Lair, yeah, we got no evidence of these charges. None whatsoever. None. And we're taught that we live in a world where people are innocent until proven guilty. And here you have nothing on this guy. Nothing whatsoever. The only thing he's guilty of is publishing stuff powerful people didn't want published.
Yeah, like
that's what he's guilty of.
You know, like the New York Times and Washington Post have published all this stuff in the last couple of years that is whistleblowing. And they all should go to jail. Then you can't have which one is it?
Yeah.
So if you're going to call Julian Assange guilty, well, then so is everyone at the New York Times and the Washington Post and anybody that's talking about leaked documents from Hunter Biden's email. Okay, great. Then you all need to go to jail because you're all committing crimes. So what is it? So it's like he's free, and you know, you just watch the lies, and I mean, you know, who knows what they're ramping us up for today. It feels like they're telling the news is like, oh, everyone's boarding up their windows in Beverly Hills and all these cities, and the Oregon governor yesterday said, oh, we're in a state of emergency. No riots, nothing has happened. She's like, state of emergency. And we're going to have the National Guard on standby. What that state of emergency does is, so Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, because of all the protests over the summer, said the Portland police cannot use tear gas. Well, the state of emergency now circumvents that. So now the state police can. So that's what that was. So we need to now start using, we need to circumvent a law passed by the mayor and the people of Portland, who said we don't want that anymore. So to use basically chemical weapons against our own people. The Oregon governor just did that yesterday. So
yeah, and you know, and the mayor of Portland issued that after months of them using tear gas on people already, months of them using tear gas on peaceful protesters. So you know, to kind of put a button on it, first of all, there are some people running for office that I'm excited about, and one of them is Sarah Iannarone out of Portland, who's running for mayor. Let's hope. I'm hoping she's victorious. I'm hoping she beats Ted Wheeler. I'm really hoping for that.
She's running as a Democrat or a Green or what?
I don't know what the details are on political affiliation for the mayoral race, to be honest with you. I'm not sure, but I know she's running against him and she's got a shot. I mean, she's been, you know, getting a lot of clout for her campaign. And she's been getting a lot of press, and she's been getting, you know, they're coming after her hard. Like the opponent, they're like, oh, she's Antifa and this and that to try to scare people away. You know, but she's got a big grassroots movement behind her. So wishing all the best for her. And by the way, guys, here's some news that you have to come to shows like this to hear about. And shows like all the independent media shows that are not letting the Assange story die out, and Action for Assange, all the people keeping this alive. You have to come to places like this, places like Status Quo, where I initially saw it from yesterday, to know, like, hey, here's something the corporate media is not going to amplify, and they dropped it right before the election on purpose so that it went under the radar. They got absolutely freaking nothing in terms of the charges Julian Assange is facing. And it's been a 7-year circus. It's absolutely insane, and it is a blatant assault on press freedom. That's the news you won't be hearing about today.
Nope.
Other than on places like this. You won't be hearing about that, except for on shows like this and shows like yours, Graham. And yeah, fun times. But anyway, but we're Democracy Day, guys. We got this.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make